Hey, mister. I'm the daughter of this company's owner, all right? My dad's the boss. Don't lump me with these lowly, poor employees. Surprised by both her vulgarity and her true identity, my dad paused with a shocked expression, then cleared his throat softly. Meanwhile, Carol wore a smug look, as if she had just made a grand statement. Remembering that Dad originally came to our company for business, I realized we couldn't afford to cause any more trouble. So I tried to apologize to Carol. Just then, Dad spoke in a low voice. So, the lower ranks are the poor employees, huh? Maybe it's time to revise the salary structure. He muttered this almost to himself. What? Are you mocking me? Fine. Mister, what's your name? Which subcontractor do you work for? I'll tell Dad about you. It might just be your fault if the company goes under. Carol retorted. Dad, looking slightly puzzled, thought for a moment before breaking into a smile. Then, let's go say hello to the boss. Lenore and the others, come along. Everyone except Dad looked shocked, but he walked ahead. Not wanting to be left behind, we hurried after him. My name is Lenore. I'm a hardworking 28-year-old. The company I work for is quite large, and I work tirelessly every day. My dad, concerned about me, contacts me once a week, but I always reply with, "Don't worry." Trying to reassure him, almost forcibly. His concern is probably because he wants to recruit me to his company. 7 years ago, when I was still a college student, I was busy with job hunting every day to secure a job offer. Dad, who runs his own company, once invited me to join his company, saying, "Why bother with job hunting? You can just come work for my company." It's not that I didn't want to go to his company, but I didn't want to rely on such connections. I wanted to succeed on my own merit. And I wanted to work alongside him, as an equal, once I was fully competent at my job. I explained this and persuaded him. Reluctantly, he agreed, and I joined my current company. It's been 6 years since I started working here. Now, I have more responsibilities, and I even have subordinates. And it's our busy season. It's not uncommon for our department heads to be absent from the office for an entire day during this time, and sometimes I can't even sit at my desk for more than 30 minutes. We're that busy. I don't have the luxury of constantly worrying about Dad's feelings. Today, I've been bustling around the office since morning. Even amidst the rush, a shrill voice caught my ear as I passed by a meeting room, prompting me to stop. The door was slightly ajar, and peering inside, I saw a woman with a tray bowing her head before another woman who sat arrogantly, berating her. "How many times do I have to tell you? I don't like coffee, I want Coke." It seemed the employee had brought the wrong beverage. The angry woman looked younger than me, but whose guest was she? A frequent complainer, perhaps? It's disgraceful to fuss over complimentary beverages. I wondered what her parents would think. Just as I was about to open the door and intervene. Ah, there she goes again. I heard a voice behind me. Turning around, I saw my colleague Sissy peeking into the room. "You scared me. Don't just start talking out of nowhere." I chided her in a whisper, careful not to be overheard. "Sorry. But it's unexpected to see you peeking, Lenore," she said with a mischievous grin. Sissy is only a year younger than me, even though she's my subordinate. We get along well and often go out for drinks. Professionally, she's my subordinate, but in our private lives, we're like friends. I wasn't peeking. "By the way, Sissy, do you know who that woman is?" I asked. "Oh, she's quite notorious around here," Sissy replied with a slight smirk. "That's Carol, the boss's only daughter." "His daughter? But why is she here?" I inquired, puzzled. "She occasionally comes to play around like this, throwing her weight around with the staff. No one dares to contradict her because she's the boss's daughter." As Sissy explained, Carol continued to berate the employee. "Go buy me a Coke. What's your name? I'll tell Dad," she shouted. I want to help that employee, my colleague, but I hesitated. Let's get back to work for now, Lenore. Sissy suggested. Poor thing, we don't keep Coke for guests. Sissy gently closed the meeting room door, holding the handle that I was gripping. She enjoys bossing the staff around like this. She never actually reports anyone. Last week, it was ginger ale. You have work to do, Lenore. She's not worth your time. Her words reminded me of the tasks I had to complete. Sissy, are you free now? Want to come to the warehouse with me? Sure. I was actually looking for you. I have some business there too. We left the meeting room, the shouts still echoing, with heavy hearts. Why does Carol come here to play? She should be having fun with friends. She looks college-aged. I pondered aloud while checking inventory in the warehouse. Apparently, she's joining the company next year. She's been visiting frequently for that. You'd think she'd rather be with friends, but she doesn't seem to have many. Sissy commented. True. I mused, feeling uneasy about Carol. Shouldn't she value the employees who support her family's business? Especially since they'll be her coworkers and supervisors next year? It's not right to treat them as mere playthings. Does she not realize she's embarrassing her parents? As I pondered these things, the pressure of my pen on the inventory notes inadvertently grew stronger. Noticing this, Sissy glanced at my notes. I get why you're angry, Lenore. She's exactly the type of person you dislike the most. She said with a wry smile. That's true, but what really irks me is the boss and the executives who say nothing. They should reprimand her for such behavior. Apparently, she's an overindulged child, born late in her father's life. Sissy explained with a gentle smile, easing me back into work mode. Thanks to her, I managed to finish the warehouse work surprisingly quickly. Exhausted from the day, I was heading home when my mobile phone rang. It was a message from Dad. Lenore. I'm coming to your company tomorrow for a business deal. If you're free, I'd like to see you. I was surprised. Dad was visiting my office? The company I work for is in the same industry as his company, and I knew they were connected, but it was the first time he had shown his face at my company in the 6 years I've been working there. I hoped to see him, but it really depended on timing, so I just replied. If I'm free, I'll come and see you. Let me know. And then closed the message. The next day, my office was busy, but things started to calm down by lunchtime. While eating, I received a message from Dad. I'll be at your company soon. I checked the time and decided to wait for him outside. As I got up, Sissy, sitting next to me, asked, Where are you rushing off to, Lenore? It's still lunch break. Oh, my dad is visiting the office today. I thought I'd go say hi since it's been a while. What? Can I come too, just to greet him? She asked excitedly. Sure, let's go together, I agreed. Sissy followed me, checking her reflection in the window and fixing her hair. I was pleased to have such an eager subordinate. While Sissy and I waited for my dad at the entrance. Is that him? She suddenly pointed to a taxi. I shook my head. Steve would have driven his own car rather than take a taxi. As we looked in the opposite direction, a shrill voice called out. Nice of you to meet me here. I pretended not to hear, but Sissy made a disgusted face as if to say this is the worst. Hey, you over there, where are you looking? I'm right here. I turned around, frustrated. And there was Carol. She was dressed inappropriately for the office, in a flouncy miniskirt and casual t-shirt, clacking her heels as she walked towards us. Excuse me, but you're mistaken. We're waiting for someone else here, I said, looking away again. In an ear-piercing tone, Carol shouted. What's with that attitude? Aren't you an employee here? Apologize right now. Sissy looked at me with a panicked expression. Yes, I'm an employee. But why should I apologize? I responded calmly. What? Carol seemed even more incensed by this. You, a lowly employee, think you can talk to me like that? Really, old lady? Well, a company needs its lowly employees, doesn't it? And for your information, I'm only 28, not an old lady. Carol burst into laughter at my reply. 28? You look much older. Is it hard being poor? I pity you, she said, pointing at me mockingly. I was furious, but I couldn't do much since she was the boss's daughter. I had to stand there, seething in silence, as she laughed. Then, "Hey, Lenore! Long time no see!" I heard a voice from afar. Approaching us was Dad, a slightly overweight, ordinary-looking man in a suit, waving his hand. "Who's that weird guy?" "Hilarious," Carol said, looking at him and laughing. That was the last straw for me. "Excuse me, that's rude." I raised my voice. "What? Who are you yelling at?" Carol yelled back. "What's going on? Are you all friends?" Unaware of the situation, Dad smiled at me kindly. "What? As if I would be friends with these people." Carol snapped at him, switching her target from me to him. Dad's expression changed immediately. "How rude to say these people when you are colleagues who work together." He was right, but Carol wasn't convinced. "Listen, old man. I'm the daughter of this company's owner. My dad is the boss. Don't lump me with these lowly, poor employees." Dad looked shocked by Carol's rudeness and her identity, then cleared his throat softly. Meanwhile, Carol looked smug, as if she had just triumphed. Remembering that Dad originally came to our company for business, I realized we couldn't afford to cause any more trouble. So I tried to apologize to Carol. But at that moment, Dad spoke in a low voice. "So, the lower ranks are the poor employees, huh? Maybe it's time to revise the salary structure." He muttered this to himself. "What? Are you mocking me? Fine. Mister, what's your name? Which subcontracting company are you from? I'll tell my dad about you. You might just ruin the company." Carol spat out. Dad, looking puzzled, thought for a moment before smiling. "Well then, let's go greet the boss. Lenore and the others, come along." The only one unfazed by the situation was Dad, who had already started walking ahead. Not wanting to be left behind, we quickly followed him. We reached the boss's office, and Dad entered first. Sissy and I followed, tense. Carol, pushing past us, rushed to her father. "Dad! This man, he..." She began to tattle immediately. Before Carol could finish, her father spoke loudly. "This man? Who are you talking to?" "I'm sorry, Steve. My daughter lacks manners." He shot Carol a sharp look to silence her, then turned to us with a smile. "Ah, it's your daughter with you today?" "Did you know about me?" I asked, surprised. Dad sat down on a sofa. "Wait, Dad," Carol protested. Dad gave me a kind look, then turned his sharp gaze to the boss. "Earlier, your daughter called my daughter and her colleague lowly, poor employees. What's this about?" The boss's face tightened. "Well, they deserved it. They were rude to me, just low-end employees." Carol continued in her shrill voice. "What?" The boss turned pale and shouted angrily at Carol. "What are you saying? This lady is the daughter of a valued client, and this man is her father and the current boss." "Eh?" Carol's face turned pale, realizing the gravity of her actions. To think such a large company still treats its employees as poor. You've become quite the boss, haven't you? If your employees are poor, shouldn't the company be ashamed? The boss was sweating profusely. "I can't leave my daughter in such a place. She'll resign today." When the boss heard that, he immediately apologized to my dad and said, "I'm terribly sorry. I've heard your daughter is very skilled. Please, not resignation. And you, apologize to him." "Wait, Dad." What's going on? I whispered to him. I had let the boss know that you were employed here, to look out for you. As I knew that you don't like the preferential treatment, I told him just to keep an eye out. Ignoring the boss and his daughter, Steve explained kindly. But I never thought this company would treat its employees like slaves. Lenore, you can quit now. You've done well here for 6 years. Come work for me. That's sudden. I can't just leave in the middle of the busy season. I protested. Dad seemed a bit exasperated by my response, but he eventually agreed. All right, if you insist. After this busy season, come work for my company. And you, it must be uncomfortable staying here after this. What do you say? The industry is the same. He kindly offered this to Sissy. Yes, absolutely. Sissy replied immediately. Wait, Sissy. I haven't decided yet. I protested. Sissy looked at me quizzically. Why not? Your dad's company is one of the elite in the country, and you're his daughter. Why wouldn't you go? Dad nodded in agreement with Sissy's words. I don't want to join his company just because of connections. I know Dad's company is big, but I didn't want to take the easy way. I explained. Sissy smiled happily. That's so like you, Lenore. And she continued. Lenore's father, I'm Sissy. I really appreciate that I can work with her. She is an outstanding boss. As she praised me, Dad smiled and sobbed along. I felt embarrassed and urged Dad to continue. Dad, the boss is still. Ah, right, forgot about that. Sorry, Sissy, we'll talk later. Yes. Sissy cheerfully replied. Now, boss, no need to apologize anymore. Let's end our business dealings here. As my dad finally addressed to him, he was surprised and looked up at Dad. That would be a great loss for us. I'm truly sorry. No, it's fine. This isn't because of the disrespectful behavior towards them. Then why? He asked. Please guide me. I'll improve anything. I'll definitely make improvements. The company would suffer a huge blow if they lost their dealings with Dad. That's why the boss kept apologizing repeatedly. Improvement is impossible. Once trust is lost, it can't be regained. You say employees are your priority, yet your daughter treats them like slaves. Did you think I wouldn't hear about it? I'm not sure. Even from the side, I can see Carol turned pale. I could demote you from the boss, but should I? Dad asked. Please, forgive me. The boss pleaded. Hey, Dad. Just because you're a valued client, you can't really do that, can you? I asked. I can. Dad replied with a smile, indicating he really had the power. I don't inquire deeply into the relationship between the boss and Dad, but Dad might be more powerful in this industry than I thought. With this realization, the both attitudes of my dad and the boss make sense. I won't go that far since I'm not a child, but I will end our contract. Thank you for your business. With that, he stood up, straightening his suit. Please, I'm begging you. Just for this term, please reconsider. How about a promotion for your daughter? No, a raise. She can even become an executive right now. Dad! But you said I would start from manager because of how it looks to others. An immediate promotion to executive is impossible. At that moment, my dad's look at the two changed to one of disdain. And the boss's pleading eyes were fixed squarely on Carol. Despite this, Carol still seemed dissatisfied with the difference between what her father had said about my position and her own treatment. I almost felt sorry for the boss with such an oblivious daughter. But I had reached my limit and couldn't hold back anymore. You plan to put a woman who called us lowly, poor employees and was rude to Dad in a position of authority? I blurted out. Well, my daughter doesn't understand because she hasn't experienced the real world yet. She'll learn to respect others through the hardships of society. Respecting others has nothing to do with social experience. I interjected, louder than I intended. Carol looked up, startled, and I addressed her. A company cannot function without its employees. Even someone who has never been an executive, like me, understands this. But you don't. Why? How would I know that? Carol seemed genuinely clueless. Do you think being a daughter of privilege puts you above others? Of course. I'm from a different upbringing. It's not my decision, it's God's. To Carol's nonsensical reply, I forced a smile. Then, as the daughter of this company's boss, I'm higher than you, right? You'll listen to me? My smile was apparently so frightening that Sissy later told me it scared Carol, whose composure vanished. Fine, what do you want? This company is not your playground. If you want to play, go find your college friends. Carol hung her head in shame, her face flushed. Sissy quietly applauded me. Well said. That's my daughter. Dad laughed heartily. After that, Sissy and I spent a hectic month at work. But the second half of the busy season was unexpectedly calm. Each time our supervisors and colleagues looked puzzled, Sissy and I exchanged knowing smiles. A month later, Sissy and I resigned and joined my dad's company. Our previous company began to decline drastically. Rumors quickly spread that the abrupt termination of the contract with a major firm was to blame, prompting other companies to reconsider their dealings. Sales plummeted by 40%, most employees started job hunting, and the company's decline accelerated. The general meeting decided the crisis was due to the boss's fault, and he was ousted. His brother is now trying to rebuild the company. According to Dad, this brother is well respected. The company might be reborn into something better. On the condition that the former boss's family no longer be involved, Dad began moves to restart dealings with them. I also heard from Dad that the former boss's family began to lose their possessions, eventually selling their house. I don't know where they went, but I doubt a family accustomed to such wealth could adapt to normal life. In fact, Carol reportedly got a job at a grocery store, acted arrogantly to customers, got into an argument, and was fired within hours, becoming somewhat of a legend. In my personal life, I managed to convince Dad to let me start as a regular employee instead of directly becoming an executive. However, I'm aware that I'll eventually take over the company. So, I balance my everyday tasks with assisting the executive team. Constantly amazed by their innovative ideas that never occur to me, sometimes feeling overwhelmed. But every time I feel like my head is about to explode, Sissy is there by my side, saying, Lenore, let's finish this task first. Then we can decide the priority for the next ones. Her support keeps me grounded. Sometimes the pressure of being the boss's daughter feels crushing, but with Sissy around, I can stay confident and cope. Interestingly, Dad also likes Sissy, and sometimes the three of us go out for drinks. Every time Dad gets tipsy and tells this joke. Lenore will be the next president, and Sissy the next executive officer. Don't even think about getting married and retiring, you too. He often tells this story laughingly. However, what Dad doesn't know is that I'm secretly in a relationship. My desire to get married is still a secret from Dad.
I recounted how her deceptions had sunk barbed hooks deep within, the damage inflicted on my former life indelible scars. She had swooped suddenly into my first marriage, weaving intricate tales, painting herself the victim, tearfully claiming my then-husband Scott had promised her a family during a brief affair. Then, proclaiming herself newly pregnant, she persuaded Scott duty compelled him to leave and care for this so-called unborn child. It was all lies, I whispered, just a ploy to steal Scott away while I pleaded with him to stay. She wanted what I had, my family, my life. Ghosts gathered as I lingered in old ruins. I felt Owen gently guide me back. What she did was unforgivable. I think this baby shower is the perfect chance to finally make her accountable. Owen's eyes flashed with purpose. With care and strategy, her web of lies could come crumbling down. I looked at him quizzically. His tactical mind, honed from years arguing high-profile court cases, was already analyzing angles. What do you mean? We attend this shower, gather irrefutable evidence she faked the pregnancy back then. Once we expose the depth of her deceit, her schemes will catch up with her. His eyes bored intensely into mine, conveying silent reassurance. Trust me, my lungs tightened reflexively. Was I ready to confront the trauma she had inflicted? Unexpected adrenaline flooded me. Yes, something fierce inside me hissed. Okay, I managed, but we'll need proof. Doubt still clung to me. Could we really unmask her before the same friends and family she had previously swayed? Leave that to me. Owen kissed my forehead gently. Now call her back and accept the invitation. Tell her we'll be there with her gift. I noticed a slight smile play at the corner of his mouth. My heart lifted in response. With renewed conviction, I typed a message to the sender titled, Sis. Tessa, what a delightful surprise to hear from you. Of course, Owen and I would be happy to attend your shower and contribute what we can. Please send details. Look forward to celebrating your joyous news. I hit send, then glanced up at Owen. This will be interesting. I managed a smirk to mirror his. Owen chuckled softly. That's an understatement. He pulled me close. Don't worry, by the time we're done, she'll wish she never crawled out of hiding. His lips grazed my ear as he whispered, I promise you she will finally pay. The invitation slid from my fingers as memories flooded back. Me, in a simple white dress, walking joyfully toward a beaming Scott on our picture-perfect wedding day. Candlelit dinners filled with easy laughter and affectionate caresses, a vision for a cozy house to fill with children, golden retriever, and family game nights. Dreams for a shared future, now only ashes and echoes of a demolished past. You really loved him. Owen's voice was soft behind me. I turned into his embrace, warmth and strength enveloping me. I did. Before Tessa, we were happy. I thought our life together was everything I wanted. Owen sighed heavily, the sound puncturing the stillness. And she stole all that. Turned your world upside down with her tricks. Anger simmered below the surface of his measured tone. I nestled closer, comforted by the solid beat of his heart next to mine, grounding me to the present. Her lies convinced Scott the child was his. He walked out convinced abandoning his family was noble, the right thing to do. My voice broke on the words. The pain of that betrayal still cut deep. She knew exactly how to manipulate him. And you paid the price. Owen's jaw clenched. I gazed up at him. But then I found you. I'm finally happy again. Owen pressed his lips to my hair, breathing me in. I'll always be here, and I swear Tessa will answer for the damage she's caused. I clung to him tightly, our embrace sealing a silent pact against the woman who had shattered my life. Later that night, I lay awake, restless. Owen slept soundly beside me, face smoothed of worry and slumber. My mind churned, transported back through the years by Tessa's message. I pictured Scott's confusion and confliction when she appeared tearful and desperate on our doorstep, claiming he had promised to care for her and the baby now supposedly on the way. At first he had denied everything, but her performances were convincing, forcing doubts to creep in. Until finally, he conceded a brief affair had occurred when we were having problems. Still, he refused to accept the child was his, until the positive paternity test crushed all his protests. I squeezed my eyes shut, blocking out the image seared into my brain. Scott hunched over, head in hands, mumbling, I have to do the right thing, as my screams echoed off the walls. Storming past Tessa's satisfied smirk as she lingered to offer support to her baby's father. It was the last time I saw Scott. Days later, signed divorce papers arrived with a note pleading forgiveness for having to choose an unborn child who needed him. The injustice still choked me. I had fought ferociously for our marriage those final days, begging Scott to see through her facade. But her web had captured him completely. He left willingly, eager to play hero, and I was left silenced and invisible, discarded tissues in the wake of their departure. Quiet sobs shook my body. The wound felt as raw as the day the ground crumbled under me. Owen's arms encircled me gently. It's okay. Just let it out. His whisper floated through the darkness. I'm sorry. I managed between sharp breaths. The memory is so clear. It hurts. You have nothing to apologize for. Owen's voice hardened. But Tessa does, for putting you through this pain. She will pay, I promise you that. I turned my tear-streaked face up toward him in the blackness. Please, just hold me. Owen pulled me fiercely against his chest. I cried until no more tears would come, safe in the harbor of his embrace. I focused on slowing my breath to match the steady rise and fall of his, lulling myself into merciful sleep. Morning sun filtered through curtains, casting everything in an almost ethereal glow. The light softened the sharp edges of grief that had resurfaced in the dark. Owen's arms still encircled me, shielding me as I stirred. How are you feeling? His gravelly, just-woke voice intoned close behind me. I exhaled fully, taking inventory. The raging sea of emotion had calmed. I realized something had shifted in the night. The festering wound was exposed, drained, and now on its way to finally healing after years neglected. Better. I turned to meet Owen's searching gaze. The pain caught me off guard, but letting it out, remembering with you here, I think somehow that helped. Relief flooded Owen's expression. He pressed his lips to my forehead. Good. His fingers idly played through my curls. I'll always be right here. I drank in the security his presence exuded, so unlike the turmoil of my former life. Back then, days after Scott left, reality had hit with cruel force. Numbness eroded into panicked sobs once his clothes disappeared from the closets, taking with them the last wisps of a once happy home. The love that had filled each room turned stale in his absence, empty halls now haunted with loneliness. My hands trembled signing divorce papers granting freedom from the marriage vows now voided. Rage simmered, remembering the false repentant note, pleading understanding for Scott's choice to abandon our life together. The wife so easily discarded struggled beneath the sudden thrust into solo parenting our young son. Stretched thin, juggling new single mom duties, my career stalled. Bills piled up, savings dwindled. Survival became a battle as the terrain shifted under me. Until Owen arrived, radically spinning everything on its axis again years later. My heart lifted, remembering our first date, his attentiveness so contrary to Scott's emotional distance, those final harrowing months. Heart-fluttering energy buzzed between us from the start, escalating quickly. Within a year, we wed on a picture-perfect spring day. What goes through your mind when you remember it all? Owen gently prodded, reading my thoughts. I smiled softly. Mostly gratitude now. The contrast helps me see how much better this is between us. Owen nodded slowly. I still think how Scott reacted was weak. The clearly honorable choice was standing by your marriage. Anger flashed in his eyes. If Tessa tries playing victim this time, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who the real victim is. Sudden revelation paralyzed me. Owen was right. So far, I had only ever been seen as the casualty of circumstance, not intentional harm. Tessa won sympathy, pretending guilelessness, while publicly grieving her unrequited love's rejection. Masterfully crafting herself, the innocent left weeping. Meanwhile, scorn loomed over me, the bitter ex-wife condemned for withholding grace and understanding. Rage threatened to choke me, realizing nothing held her accountable for plotting to sabotage my life. The injustice burned fresh. Owen leaned forward, reading the shift behind my eyes. We've been too passive too long. This baby shower is the perfect stage for exposing her lies. His voice took on a scheming lilt. I have a plan that will turn the tables on her pity party. It's time she gets revealed as the conniving fraud that drove your family apart. Adrenaline flooded my veins, hunger for vengeance competing with trickles of fear at confronting the trauma she inflicted. But refusal to keep playing her helpless victim sounded louder. I swallowed hard, steeling my nerve. Okay, tell me this plan. Owen's eyes glinted like a war room general plotting complex maneuvers. We show up at that baby shower, all doting excitement, gift in hand. We'll pretend the past never happened, give Tessa no reason to suspect we're anything but thrilled for her pending arrival. He paused, building anticipation. But when the time is right, we start sowing seeds of doubt in guests' minds about her credibility, little leading comments that seem harmless but burrow into their subconscious. We prime them for believing she spun lies years back without even realizing that's what we're doing. I leaned forward, pulse quickening. Owen continued, voice lowered conspiratorially. Then once the guests are mentally primed, I'll pull Tessa aside in private for a heart-to-heart. Hit her with all the evidence we've gathered, proving she faked the pregnancy back then with Scott. Watch her construct crumble when she realizes everyone is about to see the Angela she truly is. His eyes burned into mine. It's time for the truth to finally come out and clear your name. Determination roared inside me, hearing his plan unfold. For too long, Tessa had played innocent while I appeared the scorned, bitter ex. This could rewrite the script, reclaiming my dignity after years silently enduring her villainous facade. One uncertainty needled me. It sounds perfect, except what evidence do we actually have from back then about her pregnancy lies? It was so long ago. What proof is left? Excellent question. Owen's mouth curved slyly. What sealed it for Scott was the positive paternity test, correct? I still have contacts at the fertility clinic we used when struggling to conceive years back. Labs keep samples on file for years. If Tessa faked medical documents, there may be a trail we can trace exposing it. Hope ignited, envisioning definitive proof to convince the world I had spoken truth all along. I sighed aloud. You're a genius strategist. We might actually pull this off. Owen lifted my palms to his lips in a gentle kiss. Oh, we will pull this off, I swear to you. His breath grazed my wrist. That woman will wish she never slithered back into your life. Over the next days, Owen discreetly contacted connections, calling in favors owed, piecing together fragments from the past. Meanwhile, I braced for the imminent confrontation, nerves battling exhilaration, anticipating Tessa's downfall. We passed planning details in hushed exchanges when alone, two rebels plotting a righteous coup. The week of the shower arrived in a swell of turbulent energy. Owen spent the morning of the event finalizing ammunition, photocopies of falsified medical charts, evidence trailing her doctor shopping tactics elsewhere when initial clinic refused her requests. His eyes gleamed, presenting the documents now irrefutably exposing her paternity fabrications years prior. My chest swelled watching his zealous crusade to win justice for wrongs inflicted on my past. I stood tall and steady in a slim black dress and heels, armor for the impending battle. Owen wrapped his arms around me, voice resolute. This is it. Tonight, her lies fall apart. He pulled back, gazing intensely into my eyes. I love you, Lainey. Whatever happens in there, just know the truth will set you free. I blinked back sudden tears at his unwavering support, my pillar through storms past and present. I had to believe his plan would work. We kissed once, fiercely, sealing our pact, then headed out the door, strapped with gift and dossier to confront Tessa at long last. Music and laughter floated from the banquet hall as Owen and I approached, gifts in hand. I hesitated under the balloon archway, the urge to run crashing over me. Sensing my panic, Owen laced his fingers through mine, grounding me. You've got this. His piercing eyes bore strength into my soul. Just enjoy the party. I'll take care of the rest when the time is right. I nodded, lungs tightening as we entered the lion's den. Round tables draped in pastels dotted the room, guests mingling cheerfully over appetizers and mocktails. And there, holding court in the center, glowed Tessa. She looked surprisingly unchanged. Same tacky bleached hair, blood-red talons clutching a mimosa, grating cackle perforating the din. Time collapsed as I catapulted back to the night it all ruptured apart. Tessa had appeared without warning, mascara streaked and distraught on our doorstep so many years ago. Her Oscar-worthy performance convinced Scott of the affair, trapping him in her deceptions until he painfully relinquished our marriage. Bile rose, remembering the smug satisfaction lurking beneath her crocodile tears. Her shrill voice jarred my flashback. Oh my gosh, Lainey, you came! Suddenly I was enveloped in clouds of perfume and blinding rhinestones. Before I could respond, she had flounced off, leaving me reeling. Owen appeared whispering, You've got this, before subtly recoiling from her embrace. I stifled a smirk. We mingled cautiously, nodding hellos to familiar faces who eyed us with thinly veiled surprise. Word of Tessa's engagement to Scott had sparked gossip back then. Yet in all these years, no wedding invitations followed, suggesting perhaps her schemes secured finances, but not his everlasting devotion after all. My pulse quickened, realizing her standing hung precariously on maintaining a flawless facade. Owen played his part masterfully, blending seamlessly into conversations, while interjecting seemingly innocuous comments laced with venom. I overheard him musing, Didn't expect to see Tessa here after last I heard. And wow, she looks amazing for just having a baby 6 months ago. Planting seeds to unravel her crafted identity. We timed bathroom trips strategically, ducking into corners to breathlessly confer on Owen's progress, baiting guests. With subtly cunning effort, he was dismantling her public persona brick behind the cheerful party veneer. The evening wore on in tense finesse. Owen continued circling the room. A political candidate working a rally, he was gradually turning the tide toward belief in my truth. I saw raised eyebrows, darting looks exchanged, tremors of doubt spreading through the crowd. Suddenly, Owen was at my side, electric urgency radiating from him. It's time, he murmured. Wish me luck. Before I could respond, he was gliding toward Tessa, extending a polite arm to guide her aside. I watched as they crossed the room lined with photos of her posed with Scott and an infant. Props in the fantasy life she had conned her way into obtaining. Quiet panic rose watching Owen's mouth move rapidly as they slipped into the hallway. This was our checkmate move. Would his evidence persuade her web finally collapse? What happened next exploded in a blur. Raised voices pierced the din. Guests turned startled to the hallway as Tessa burst violently through the doors, streaks of mascara ominously reminiscent of her past facades distorting her livid face. How dare you ambush me here with these lies! She was shrieking. Owen appeared seconds later, his calculated calm infuriating her further. You come into my party with some nonsense about me faking medical records? Mouths gaped around us. Murmurs buzzed through the room. Our allegations apparently confirmed as Tessa self-destructed before our eyes. Tessa, please lower your voice. Owen's tone remained infuriatingly controlled. I simply presented you with facts exposing major concerns about your past honesty. We can discuss this privately later if you prefer. A twisted sneer contorted her previously smooth complexion. Oh, I'll discuss this later, all right? My lawyer will be discussing defamation charges with you. You smug bastard, get out! With that, she stormed away, knocking balloons violently in her wake. The room hung suspended in deafening silence before nervous titters resumed. Owen turned slowly to me, the ghost of a smile playing at his lips. Well, that went even better than planned, I'd say. All eyes fixed on me as Owen and I stood center stage in the debris of Tessa's latest performance. Shocked faces flashed confusion, recognition, then dawning clarity processing the scene that had unfolded. Owen squeezed my hand subtly as accusations of Tessa's pregnancy deceit now hung palpably in the air. After years enduring her villainous facade, her web was unraveling at long last. I cleared my throat, pulse thrumming. I suppose you're all wondering what that was about. I kept my voice measured, though inside I trembled. Owen and I had discussed this speech, the final blow to dismantle her slippery veneer of innocence. Many years ago, Tessa insinuated herself into my marriage by faking a pregnancy to lure away my husband. Audible gasps punctuated the silence. I pressed on, refusing to stall now. At the time, we had no way to conclusively expose her deceit. Until now. I gestured to Owen, who unfurled photocopies of falsified medical charts documenting her elaborate paternity ruse. We have substantial evidence suggesting she lied about expecting a child back then. Lied to steal Scott from his family. Mouths gaped in astonishment reading Owen's documents. I scanned familiar faces I had smiled alongside at barbecues and birthdays in another life, before everything shattered. Neighbors I had embraced for consolation after Scott left, never suspecting some secretly harbored doubts about my intentions and innocence. Their eyes reflected swirling shock and contrition at long last recognizing Tessa's schemes. Lainey, her cousin Alicia finally murmured, "Is this all true? We had no idea." Remorse and dawning comprehension dawned across rescued relics from my past, bonding with me against our common enemy. Suddenly, Owen yelped a warning as Tessa burst violently back into the room, wielding Scott by the collar. "Tell them, Scott!" She was deranged, mascara etching ghoulish circles around fiery eyes. "Tell everyone about our baby, our son! Tell them!" She shook Scott by the neck like a limp rag doll. His eyes implored help, flitting frantically around the room. My heart clenched seeing the broken man too weak to free himself from her clutches, much less salvage my reputation years ago when it mattered most. When defending my honor could have preserved our family before she sank manipulative claws. I realized with startling clarity how trauma bonds and sunk costs had eroded his will. Owen extended a hand cautiously towards her. "Tessa, let the man speak for himself." His tone balanced authority and empathy. Eyes wild, she shoved Scott forward, causing him to stumble awkwardly. "Go ahead, Scott. Tell these vicious liars that I had your baby 6 years ago. Your son. Tell them now." All eyes fixed on Scott, shifting uncomfortably in the spotlight of scrutiny. His eyes locked on mine for a split second. A silent apology flickering across the years that had aged us. Then he turned to face our audience. The room braced for his statement to corroborate or condemn Tessa's tale. Well, Scott stammered, shrinking under the intensity. "I mean, at the time, I was certain. We took the paternity test. I just don't know anymore, honestly." He looked at the floor despairingly while Tessa stomped her foot, nostrils flaring. "What is wrong with you, Scott? I need you to handle this, do you hear me? This is all lies. We have a child." Owen stepped forward and touched her shoulder gingerly. She recoiled as if scalded. "Tessa, listen to me. The darkness cannot withstand the light of truth." He glanced meaningfully at the documents in Guest's hands, then into her eyes. "This no longer needs to define you, but the time for lies and games is over." His words pierced her delusions, reality crashing over her. She collapsed into a sequined heap, wailing inconsolably. Two friends rushed to escort her limp, trembling body outside. Murmurs engulfed the room as shockwaves rocked foundations of belief about her credibility. Owen wrapped a sturdy arm around me, pressing his lips close to my ear. "You were amazing. It's over. Tessa won't recovering from this." I gazed into the eyes of past acquaintances, illuminated with dawning truth. The taste of vindication flooded my soul as deception corroding my life finally drained away. I blinked back tears of relief. No, she won't recover. My nightmare with her is finally over. I awoke the next morning enveloped in Owen's protective embrace, momentarily disoriented. Then the previous night came flooding back. Exposed secrets, Tessa's public collapse, the reversal of years wrongly blamed for dissolution of my family. I lay still, letting waves of realization wash over me that her facade had finally fallen. Owen began stirring, pulling me tighter against his chest with a contented sigh. "How'd you sleep?" His morning voice rumbled gravelly in my ear. "Better than I have in years, honestly." Relief flooded me. Knowing I don't ever have to dread her popping up unexpectedly again, it feels freeing beyond description. Owen propped up on an elbow, eyes dancing playfully. "So exposing her lies helped you turn the page on the past, finally?" "Absolutely. You gave me closure I realized I was still missing." I leaned up for a languid kiss, hoping he felt the depth of my gratitude. We spent the morning leisurely recounting Tessa reactions as her web unraveled the previous night. The deranged shrieking, the violence with which she dragged in a shell-shocked Scott seeking public vindication. I shuddered recalling her manic efforts to compel his corroboration. "Think her meltdown will be enough for Scott to finally leave her for good?" I mused. Owen snorted. "Seeing her full psychosis on display? He'd be insane not to realize it's time to cut ties." I nodded slowly, considering Scott's haggard appearance, the haunted eyes of one held captive too long with no fight left to free himself. Maybe this gave him the strength he needs. I hope so. We spent the remainder of the weekend in a cheerful bubble of domestic bliss, spirits lighter than they'd been in ages. No dark clouds lingered on my horizon, thanks to Owen vanquishing ghosts that had haunted me. That bubble burst abruptly Monday afternoon with an urgent pounding on our front door. I opened it to find a rain-drenched Scott swaying unsteadily. Red rimmed his eyes like he'd aged a decade since the party. "Lainey, I'm so sorry to ambush you, but everything is falling apart. Tessa's locked herself in the bedroom, making bizarre threats unless I publicly retract everything." His voice broke pleadingly. "Can we talk inside?" I ushered him in, heart clenching seeing his bedraggled state. Owen rushed over with blankets and coffee as Scott collapsed on our couch, shivering. Gradually the events spilled out, Tessa refusing to eat, carry on hysterically, or see reason after her schemes exploded at the party. I had no idea she was like this. I swear it. Everything made so much sense at first. Remorse etched every line of his face. Now I don't know how to get us out of this nightmare. She's fully lost grip on reality. I crouched to study the shell of a man deteriorated from the one I'd loved in our early days. Back when laughter came easy and joy fueled our dreams of a future unfolding together. Before Tessa sank her claws, twisting Scott so entirely he abandoned our marriage for her illusion. Empathy flickered, realizing perhaps he had merely been her broken pawn all along. Owen handed Scott a fresh mug, eyes full of compassion. "Don't worry, brother. We are going to help you. Tessa needs serious help, and you deserve to be free." They exchanged a look heavy with unspoken redemption. I reached for Owen's hand, blinking back tears at the display of undeserved mercy towards Scott. Perhaps cycles of deception could finally grind to a halt, setting all captives free. Day melted into evening as we outlined intervention plans and contact numbers for Tessa. Scott insisted relocating a few towns away once released from hospital care, desperate to escape the smothering wreckage. Hours later, I waved goodbye to the shadow of a man I once loved, still drenched but eyes glinting renewed hope. I watched the darkness engulf his retreating form, leaving the past to close mercifully behind him. A year whirled past in a flurry of changes. New jobs, a new house, fiery sunsets on the balcony tucked under Owen's arm. We received only sporadic updates on Tessa, who reportedly stabilizing while continuing intensive counseling. Scott had safely relocated hours away, escaping the oppressive weight of their former dysfunction to cautiously begin rebuilding life on his own terms. I awake early on the anniversary of the baby shower, golden beams filtering across our bedroom as my mind churns through memories of the saga's start. The initial staggering request for cash that lured me back into confrontation with troubled ghosts of my past. I reflect on Owen and I bonding tightly against her offenses, drawing strength from partnership. A smile tugs my mouth, remembering our stealth maneuvers choreographing her downfall. Owen stirs, stretching lazily before pulling me close. "You're up early. What's going on in that head of yours?" His voice rumbles husky with sleep. I roll to face him, heart swelling with affection. Just thinking about everything that happened since Tessa's message arrived. I was so fragile when all this started. Owen nods, eyes softening, recalling my distress. "You saw my wounds and helped heal them, stood by me until justice was served." Owen props up on an elbow, toying idly with my curls. "I meant what I said. You deserve to have her lies exposed publicly to clear your name. I wanted to free you from the burden she forced you to carry all those years." I lean in for a lingering kiss, praying he understands the depths of my gratitude. Owen had championed me when no one else would, offering long overdue vindication. The gift of closure finally helped exorcise ghosts of betrayal and heartache that once haunted me. Later that afternoon, I stand at the kitchen window, absently scrubbing dishes. I register movement in the yard peripherally as a strange vehicle pulls up. My pulse quickens, seeing Scott unfold slowly from the driver's seat. Owen joins me, puzzled, as we watch Scott approach, clasping a bouquet of wildflowers from our gardens. I numbly swing the door open in stunned silence. Scott shifts his weight nervously before clearing his throat. Hey there. I know the surprise visit is out of nowhere. I just wanted to bring these by in person today. He extends the makeshift bouquet tentatively. A small token to try saying what words can't adequately express. I accept the fragrant blooms, speechlessly. Scott goes on haltingly. I know flowers could never make up for all that happened over the years, for choices I made that caused you immense pain. His eyes glisten with remorse, especially for not believing you about Tessa's schemes at the time. But I hope you know how deeply I regret it all. How sorry I am now that the fog has lifted. His voice cracks under the freight of carrying immense guilt and grief over paths not taken. My heart twists seeing his sorrow, awakening trace forgiveness, I believed forever smothered by resentments. I grasp Scott's shaking hands in mine. It's okay. Let's agree to leave heaviness of the past behind us, once and for all time. I squeeze gently, willing self-condemnation to lift from this broken man. I sense Owen shift subtly behind me, signaling his loving support. Scott manages a watery chuckle. You always were gracious and understanding, even when I surely didn't deserve it. He looks at me meaningfully. Thank you for this closure. Be well. You both deserve all the happiness. I watch Scott's retreating form until he is gone, taking with it the last remnants of turmoil that had colored so many years. I turn to find Owen wiping his eyes furtively. Strong arms pull me against his chest as relief floods me. The scales now balanced between us all. Liberation comes wave after healing wave. I spend the evening tucked under Owen's arm, scrolling old photos. Scott grinning on our wedding day, a newborn swaddled and helpless. Bittersweet nostalgia wells up, remembering joy and devastating heartache, years condensed into files on my phone. Owen glances over. No more ghosts, he asks gently. I smile up at him, fully present. No more ghosts stirring up the past, just peace and so much hope for the future now with you. And I know in my soul I am finally free.
I'm Claire, a 26-year-old company employee who just turned 26. The company I work for is a reasonably large corporation. My parents are still alive, running a real estate development business in the city. It's a small company, but Dad's management has been successful, and we've lived a fairly wealthy life. Even during the recent pandemic turmoil, thankfully our business has remained stable, and we've managed to live peacefully. Now at my age, I'm starting to think about marriage. Actually, I have a boyfriend I met in a club during college, and we've been dating for a long time. Both of us thinking about marriage. His name is Trevor, 28 years old. His family is a well-known household in the countryside, and he's been living alone in Boston since college. He's kind and treasures me. I felt happy. However, there was one concern. It's just a rumor, but many say Trevor is a playboy. Since college, he had a reputation for being the center of attention, and when we started dating, even my friends expressed their worries. But he was my first boyfriend, and he was always kind and wonderful in front of me. Trevor being a playboy is just a rumor, right? Even if he was like that in the past, now he's only mine, so it doesn't matter. Maybe I was just naive, not listening to what others said. And finally, our marriage was decided. We had completed the engagement formalities, booked the wedding venue, and even figured out our new home, at the peak of happiness. One day, my college classmates and juniors gathered, and we had a lively girls-only party. The conversation, of course, turned to my upcoming marriage. Claire is the first among our classmates to get married. I sometimes think it's too early, but maybe it's just the right time, said Mila, my college classmate and close friend, munching on a vegetable stick. Really? I still want to have more fun, Chloe, another close friend, said as she swirled her glass of wine. Anyway, I'm worried about Trevor. Isn't he rumored to be a playboy? Are you sure about that? He's not, as Mila says. He's totally into me. Claire, you're such a child. You can't stay a dreamy girl forever, you know? Chloe strongly agreed with Mila. Is that so? But once we get married, he'll probably settle down, right? That's naive. Well, it's typical of you to be like a dreamy princess. There's even a rumor that there might be some ulterior motive for Trevor marrying you, you know? Don't say weird stuff, Mila. But... What's up, Zoe? Zoe chimed in, was a junior from the club, 2 years our junior. We got along well, and always hung out together. I was hesitant to bring this up here, but Trevor is pretty close with Lucy, right? Lucy? Yes, she's my classmate who joined our sophomore retreat. Even though she wasn't part of the club. After that, Trevor gave her a ride home, and they've been out for meals a few times. What? Isn't that like cheating? No, Mila. I know about that too. They're from the same hometown, and I heard he's been looking out for her as a senior. Well, if Claire's okay with it, I guess it's fine. I trust Trevor, so it's all good. Even though I said that, I couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. After that party, I met with Trevor. Hey, how's Lucy doing recently? What do you mean? She's just a normal friend. I heard from Zoe that you sometimes go out to eat with her. Aha, she's my high school junior, you know? It's great to meet her here, so I just did some senior-like things. Is that all? You're so suspicious. Is this the pre-wedding jitters? Still, isn't it weird to be close with another girl when we're about to get married? She's a junior. I'm looking out for her. You're the one for me. Trust me, haha. Okay, I trust you. We parted ways that day, but my unease lingered. One day, Mila called me. I heard a weird rumor. A friend of mine's boyfriend works at the same company as Trevor. The other day, when I was drinking with that friend and her boyfriend, Trevor came up as your boyfriend, and it became a bit of a topic. And? It's not a good story. According to that friend's brother, Trevor seems to think Lucy is his real choice. No way. He supposedly said he's dating a rich girl, and if all things go well, he could marry into money. Your family's pretty wealthy, right? Are you okay with him saying that? That's definitely a lie. Trevor's not like that. I get you want to believe that, but you should be careful. I'm a bit worried, so I'll look into it. I'll let you know if I find anything. I appreciate your concern, but I trust Trevor. I want you to be happy. That's why I'm so serious. I don't want to doubt, but it's hard not to when you hear such stories. I wanted to believe in Trevor, but my anxiety was growing. Time passed amidst my worries. At home, I was organizing things, making notes of what could be used after the wedding, and what was still needed. I need to do some shopping. I have to discuss it with Trevor. As I thought about it, I couldn't help but smile. A modest but warm life. Just imagining it made me happy. Then the WhatsApp notification rang. It was from Mila. She sent a photo out of the blue. It showed Trevor walking closely with some woman. The place was a theme park I recognized. Looking closely, that woman was Lucy? I switched from texting to calling. I was at the theme park with friends and saw Trevor. He was with Lucy. Did you know about this? No, I didn't. He said he had to work today. So much for working on a holiday. Do you still trust Trevor? Yes, I trust him. There might be some reason I don't know about, and Lucy is just a junior from his hometown. I don't see anything suspicious. Well, if you say so, Claire, but I find it suspicious. Mind if I look into it more? Sure, but Mila, are you against my marriage? Not at all. It's just Trevor's actions that are suspicious. Would he really go to a theme park alone with a junior without telling you? I'll ask him about it tonight. No, you shouldn't say anything. This was just something I stumbled upon. It'll complicate things if you bring it up. Okay. I'll look into it a bit more. If there's nothing, that's it. If there is, we'll just laugh at Trevor's mistake. That won't be necessary. Yeah, you're the princess. But you have to face reality. While I appreciate Mila's concern, my unease about Trevor's actions grows. Should I keep trusting him like this? Mila's activities became more frantic. She communicated less with me and seemed to be in constant contact with someone. Knowing Mila's character, I'm sure it's not anything weird. I'm not worried, but curious about what she's up to. Trevor, my fiancé, has been busy with work lately. He was appointed the deputy leader of a new project. He said he'd be on a business trip for a while, working on site with the client's company. We won't see each other for a bit. Well, it's work, and it should be done before the wedding, so hang in there. I'll miss you too. With that, Trevor left for his business trip. Trevor lives alone, in an apartment contracted by his company. It must be inconvenient for him. Thinking so, I visited his apartment on my day off. Assuming he wouldn't eat properly alone, I planned to cook, clean, and do his laundry. It had been 2 weeks since we last met, but we rejoiced at our reunion. We went shopping at a nearby supermarket and cooked together. I kicked him out of the room to clean and do laundry. I thought a man's solo living space would be messy, but it was surprisingly tidy. Unexpectedly, he was quite organized, making me think housework would be easy after marriage. I smiled mischievously at the thought. While I was pondering, I noticed something in the corner of the room. It looked like an umbrella. It had pink frills and cute rabbit patterns. I picked it up and examined it closely. Obviously, it wasn't his, nor mine. Just then, the front door opened and Trevor came back. Man, killing time alone outside is quite hard. Ended up reading manga at a comic cafe. I bought your favorite cheesecake from a famous local patisserie. He said as he came in, but his expression changed when he saw the umbrella in my hands. Claire, that's... He started to panic. Trevor, what's this about? Surely you're not going to say it's yours, right? I remember now. It's Mom's. She left it here when she stayed over last week. I've been looking for it. Your mom uses an umbrella with little bunnies on it? Well, you know Mom. Still acts young and loves character stuff. This is the umbrella of a woman who prefers simple and sophisticated things, huh? Yeah, that's right. We have a lot of these at home. She loses her judgment when trying to look young. I see. Your mom is quite youthful. Yeah, that's right. Dad and I are always saying it's embarrassing. Hey, Trevor. What is it? Even when I get old and turn into an auntie, will you still love me? Of course. Even if you turn into an auntie, even if your body fat exceeds 40%, my love won't change. You're saying too much, but okay. After that conversation, Trevor let out a huge sigh for some reason. A while after that, Mila invited me on a trip. It was a surprise visit to Trevor's business trip location. I was immediately on board with the idea. I quickly got ready and met Mila at the station. Mila, you're quite the strategist to think of this. Well, I'll always be like this. So we decided to enjoy our childish adventure. Arriving at the nearest station and passing through the ticket gate, Mila suddenly said, Isn't that Lucy? What a coincidence to see her here. Mila, and what, Claire too? Hello, long time no see, but why are you here? I like traveling alone and came here for sightseeing. Lucy's face turned pale. Oh, what a coincidence, huh? Mila gave a sly smile full of implication. Well, it must be fate. How about having lunch together? You're okay with that, right, Claire? I don't mind, but... I'd love to, but I have plans after this. Lucy was trembling. Plans? Like meeting someone? No, not that. I have a travel itinerary and some sightseeing spots I want to visit. Let's go together then. We have no plans. Let us accompany you. But that's... Don't say that. It's always good to have company on a journey, right? We'll treat you to lunch, so it's decided. With persuasive words, Mila half forced us along, quickly taking action and leading the way. Lucy kept looking back towards the station. During the meal, she seemed to receive several calls on her mobile phone and stepped out occasionally. Mila asked, What's up? Something urgent? No, it was just a confirmation call from the hotel I've booked for today. Already booked, huh? Maybe we should stay there too. What? Why not spend the night together, 3 of us, and have a girls' night in? I'm fine with it. But wouldn't that be a bother to Lucy? No, I don't mind. There's nothing, suspicious about it. Then it's settled. Lucy, can you check with the hotel? Urged by Mila, Lucy rebooked the reservation for 3. That night, we had a fun girls' night in. Though Lucy seemed a bit off. Was she just tired? Mila can be pushy, so it's no surprise. The next day, Lucy said she wanted to go alone, and left after checking out. Before noon, we went to Trevor's company and caught him coming out for lunch. Trevor was surprised by our sudden visit, and I sensed a bit of feigned reaction. He seemed happy at first, but then became sullen. I wondered if I had upset him. On the plane back, I was down, but Mila, having drunk 3 beers, seemed strangely happy. When I asked, she said, "This is a reward for myself. Scary how well things are going. I didn't quite understand, but that's Mila for you. Lately, I've been helping Dad with computer work he's not good at, in between my job. Dad has been sharing even confidential matters with me, making me quite knowledgeable about the industry. One day I noticed Dad distressed over some papers at his office. What's wrong? A confidential acquisition deal got leaked, and another company beat us to it. The Cambridge building? Yeah, I told you about it. We were about to proceed, having secured the funding. I remembered mentioning this property to Trevor when we passed it on a date. Once I casually mentioned this to Mila over tea. The real estate business is tough, huh? Yeah, Dad always says the basic of business is to buy low and sell high. Which company took over the deal? I think it was Davis Craft Ventures Limited. They're a major player in the industry, unstoppable once they start moving. Davis Craft Ventures Limited? Huh? Could it be? Mila seemed deep in thought. What's up? Do you know something about Davis Craft Ventures Limited? I have a favor to ask. Can you feed Trevor some false information? False information to Trevor? Yes. Tell him that Dad is eyeing a low-quality property with no real asset value as a potential profit maker. I'm not sure about this. Is there a reason? I have some clues and hunches. If I'm right, this could be quite a spectacle. I'm reluctant, but if you say so, I'll try. Then one day, Dad and I talked about a problematic property, a building with no asset value, but made to look profitable. During a date with Trevor, I casually mentioned, "This building seems to have incredible asset value. Dad is thinking of acquiring it." His demeanor changed abruptly. "Need to make a call," he said and walked away. Later, "Some fool bought that problematic property. It's Davis Craft Ventures Limited. That'll be an expensive lesson. Ha ha ha. Whoever handled it is in for a scolding. Ha 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 ha." Dad said that, explaining the situation. "That building is old and doesn't meet seismic standards. It'd require significant renovation to sell. I wouldn't buy it." Indeed, a professional's eye is different. After that, Trevor seemed down. He only mentioned, "I messed up at work and got scolded by my boss." He looked like a child scolded by a parent. I told Mila about this, and she said sternly, "Claire, you shouldn't speak lightly about work matters. It's unprofessional to casually discuss work, even if you don't realize it." Why am I being scolded? I did tell Trevor about Dad's work, but Trevor messes up at work, gets scolded by his boss, and I get scolded by Mila. I didn't fully understand, but as a professional, I thought I should be more careful about compliance. Then the day before my wedding with Trevor arrived. Planning to go to bed early for the big day, I got a call from Mila. "Hey, finished your last supper? Tomorrow's the big day. You're okay with doing the friend's speech tomorrow, right?" "Yes, just finished writing it. It was quite a task. "Oh, was it that difficult? Sorry." "No, it was actually fun. Tomorrow will be unforgettable for you. Kind of scary, but looking forward to it. Then, on the big day, as the bride and groom, we were the main focus, but we were constantly pulled here and there. Before I knew it, it was time for the toast. There were the usual family speeches, and a brief time for mingling. As I was at the head table, relatives and friends poured us drinks and offered their congratulations. Amidst all this, Mila whispered in my ear, "Honestly, I'm against this marriage, so I'm going to ruin the ceremony." What are you talking about? Her shocking confession left me frozen. Listen, you'll understand once you hear what I have to say. He's a real villain. You might not see it, but I've done my research and know his true nature. I'll protect you, trust me. What do you mean? Just watch from here. I've got everything prepared. Mila smirked and returned to her seat. Confused, I watched as the reception proceeded, and it was time for the friend's speech. Prompted by the smooth introduction of the MC, Mila took the microphone. Claire, congratulations, but I have mixed feelings. The room fell silent at Mila's suggestive words. Trevor, the groom, you met the bride and me in the same college club. When I found out the two of you were dating, I supported you, hoping you'd take good care of my best friend. Mila continued, surveying the silent room. But Trevor? No, I have something to say to everyone here. Raising her voice suddenly, Mila captured the attention of the room. The one you truly love isn't Claire beside you, but her. Pointing to a woman in the room. It was Lucy. Her name is Lucy Davis. She's the daughter of the president of Davis Craft Ventures Limited, a rival to Claire's dad's company, a much bigger company than Claire's dad's. They've been trying to outdo Claire's dad's company. Lucy Davis of Davis Craft Ventures Limited revealed, listened to Mila's words with a stunned face. Trevor was sweating, dampening the frills of his dress shirt. The groom, while dating the bride, also had a relationship with Lucy. Yes, he continued his relationship with the bride to gain inside real estate information, which he then passed to Davis Craft Ventures Limited, giving them an advantage. It's no wonder the bride's dad's company has been underperforming lately, with Trevor the spy feeding information through the bride to Davis Craft Ventures Limited. On the day itself, my dad was in shock at Mila's revelation. The idea that his daughter's fiancé was a spy for a business rival was unthinkable. Trevor planned to marry the wealthy bride, live a rich life, crush Claire's dad's company for a decent sum, then divorce her. His real intention was to marry Lucy and secure a high position at Davis Craft Ventures Limited. Initially, I suspected Trevor of cheating, but further investigation revealed his despicable plan. As Claire's best friend, I must stop this wedding. Mila passionately made her case in tears. The hall was silent, everyone's eyes on Trevor and Lucy. Breaking the silence was my dad. He went to the MC and said, Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the turn of events. The parties involved, including the bride and groom and their families, are in shock. We will make a formal apology later, but for now, we must end this reception. I am deeply sorry. After his announcement, he bowed deeply. One by one, guests started leaving. I watched it all as if it were happening to someone else. I couldn't cry. Back in the dressing room, with my parents by my side, I silently began to pack up. At home, in my room, the tears finally came. No resentments towards Mila. She saved me. The tears were because of Trevor. He would surely face consequences. I believed that. Afterward, Trevor faced a difficult time and misfortune, as what goes around comes around. At the reception, his colleagues and friends were present, which led to his demotion at work. He had personal relationships with female co-workers and felt compelled to quit. The disgrace at the wedding caused resentment from invitees, leading to demands for gift returns and compensations. Naturally, our engagement ended, and Trevor had to pay me a breach of contract compensation. His family sold their house and land, but it wasn't enough, so he borrowed from dubious lenders to settle the payments. As for Lucy, exposed as my husband's cheating partner, her father's company's reputation sank, and he was ousted at a shareholders' meeting. Ultimately, they divorced. Trevor was forced into a part-time job in the countryside, and Lucy returned to her parents, working in a local factory. Later, I forgave Mila for her disruption at the reception and expressed my gratitude. Blue sea, wide sandy beach, the sun stinging the skin. Now, I'm in the Bahamas with Mila and Chloe. My dad, grateful for Mila's courage at the toast, funded a trip for the three of us. What a great place. I feel like I can forget all the unpleasant things. I'm glad you're feeling better, Claire. It was hard for me to confess at the wedding. I'm grateful to you, Mila. I can't imagine what would have happened if I had married Trevor. I helped with the investigation too, so a little gratitude would be nice, said Chloe. Yes, Chloe, you did great too. Both of you are my precious friends. But marriage? I don't want to go through such trouble, Mila said. If it's with someone you truly love, a little hardship is bearable, Chloe replied. This experience has taught me a lot. I can't be a princess anymore. It's important to cherish each other, right? I said, sounding wise. Let's take our time finding the right person. No jumping ahead, okay? Hey, Chloe, what are you looking at? Oh, just noticing that group of 3 Americans over there. The one in the middle is kind of my type. Right, Mila? Interesting. Maybe we should say hi. Don't you dare. We had a fun time together. Though it started as a heartbroken trip to Hawaii, the tropical sun revived my spirits. Despite the pain, I grew stronger. After this trip, I feel like I can start anew. On a lazy Hawaiian afternoon, I reassured myself in a dreamlike state.
So, you divorced an elite like me and then remarried an unemployed man, huh? My ex-husband Brian's voice echoed throughout the fancy restaurant. Sitting next to him, the woman who was his affair partner back then looked at us, covering her mouth as if trying to hide her amusement. Well, I guess a divorced nurse like you can only marry an unemployed man. Is this your husband? He's quite a plain-looking guy. Perfect for you. Brian said something like that. My current husband stepped forward, shielding me. Please stop. I won't allow you to make fun of Mary any further. Oh, the unemployed husband has appeared. Hey, do you know who I am? I know very well, that's why. At that moment, my husband's words made my despicable ex-husband freeze. My name is Mary. I am 27 years old and I've been married for 2 years. I have been working as a nurse, my dream since I was a child, and my days are busy but fulfilling. Hey Mary, look at this! In the morning, Brian, my husband, called me over with a bundle of papers and a happy expression. What's going on? Wow, that's amazing! It was the company newsletter for the advertising agency where Brian worked. Ranked number 1, Sales Department's rising star, Brian. The headline was accompanied by a photo and interview of Brian with a proud smile. I'm in trouble, they featured me again. While saying that, Brian couldn't hide his joy. Brian was an elite, having graduated from a well-known university and working at a major advertising agency. That's amazing, Brian. I'm happy too. Well, as a mere nurse, you can't imagine this glamorous world. As I struggled for words, Brian, tightening his tie, said, I'll be late tonight due to a business dinner. I don't need dinner, see you. Okay, take care. Brian had this side to him. We were introduced by a mutual acquaintance and eventually got married, but after a while, he would sometimes belittle me and my nursing job. At first, he shared household chores with me and spoke kindly, but recently, I'm the only one doing the chores and I catch glimpses of his condescending attitude. When I asked him to help with housework once, he said, I'm an elite ad salesman, you're just a nurse. Even you should know who has it harder. Serve me quietly. When we were dating, Brian was kind and everyone envied us as a couple. It would be a lie to say I didn't feel secure being with an elite. I grew up in a single-parent family and my mother had already passed away, so I wanted to have my own family as soon as possible. I need to have a proper talk with Brian. With that thought, I went to work that day. Good morning, did you sleep well? I'll take your temperature now. Good morning, thanks to you, I slept well. When I spoke to Mr. Green, a patient hospitalized due to injuries from a car accident, he replied calmly. Mr. Green is about 7 or 8 years older than me, but he seems to love playing video games and often plays them in bed. However, he always thanks me when I assist him and speaks politely when we chat, which makes me happy. It feels rewarding when patients thank you for your work. That day, I worked diligently from morning to evening until it was time to finish work. On my way home, I realized that Brian's birthday was coming up soon. Since he said he would be late today, I thought it might be a good idea to choose a gift for him before going home. I might as well dine out alone. With that in mind, I decided to take a train to the city in the opposite direction from usual. I successfully chose Brian's birthday present, had dinner, and was about to head home when I saw a familiar-looking man in a suit. Brian was walking. However, there was a slender woman with long brown hair snuggling up next to him. For some reason, I had a bad feeling. I thought he said he had a work dinner today. With my heart pounding uneasily, I followed the two from a distance. Then, the two of them left intimately, held hands, and went off into an accommodation facility. I felt like everything went dark before my eyes and sat down on the side of the road. It's not true. Brian was cheating on me. Dressing up, coming home late, always fiddling with his cell phone at home. I thought it was all for work, but it wasn't. Brian had betrayed me. I don't know how I managed to get home. I sat alone in the dark living room of my home. Hey Mary, what's the matter? Not even turning on the lights? Brian turned on the living room lights when he came home late. With my head down, I spoke to Brian. Brian, sit down there. What is it? I'm tired and I want to go to bed already. Just sit down. As I glared at Brian, who reluctantly sat down, I confronted him. Brian, you're cheating on me, aren't you? I saw you today. Brian looked surprised for a moment, but then sighed. Is that all? What do you mean, is that all? Yeah, that's right. I have another girl I'm dating. She's a receptionist at work, famous for being cute. Can't help it, can I? I'm popular. What are you saying? As I was astonished by Brian's brazenness, he continued, You should be grateful that I've been with someone like you, who has nothing going for them. Your face is nothing special. You work as a nurse, a lowly job, and you have no parents. How can you keep someone like me, Mary? What? Well, it doesn't matter. I kept you around as a housekeeper, but you're no longer needed. Pack your things and leave. Brian glanced at me, unable to speak from the shock, and went to the bedroom. I couldn't sleep all night and was left devastated, but I still had to go to work. Leaving the house before Brian, I tried to do my usual work despite the struggle. Did something happen? You look pale. Surprised, I looked at Mr. Green holding a game console, staring at my face. I'm fine. It's disgraceful for a nurse to be worried by a patient, haha. Trying to laugh it off, Mr. Green shook his head and said, You shouldn't say you're a disgraceful nurse, even as a joke. I think I can be discharged today thanks to your help. I can't ask what happened, but you'll be okay. You're someone who deserves happiness. Holding back my tears, I bowed to Mr. Green. You'll be okay, you deserve happiness. Mr. Green's words gave me encouragement. That day, I packed my things, left the completed divorce papers, and moved out of the house. The next day, Brian called. I filed the divorce papers. Understood. Now you're a divorcee with no parents and an ugly nurse. Do your best to be happy. Goodbye. Not wanting to hear Brian's laughing voice any longer, I hung up. And so, our divorce was finalized. For about a year after that, I was even more absorbed in my work than before. After moving, I requested to be transferred to a busy department, which left me no time to feel lonely, and it might have been for the best. On a day off, I went shopping nearby and ran into a familiar face in the park on my way home. Ah, Mr. Green! Oh, it's been a while. Thanks to you, my health has improved a lot. Sitting on a park bench playing a game, I couldn't help but smile at Mr. Green. We talked for a while. When I told him about finding out about my husband's affair and being encouraged by his words to get a divorce, Mr. Green seemed surprised. That must have been tough. You did well to get through it. Thank you. I've been holding on to the words I'll be okay like a charm. On the way home that day, Mr. Green invited me out for dinner. We exchanged contact information, and even though we went home that day, we continued to go on several dates afterward. Eventually, I accepted Mr. Green's, or rather, Sam's proposal to be in a relationship. Sam and I were able to go on dates even during weekdays. In other words, he didn't seem to have a job. Even so, he always treated me to meals, which I initially found quite mysterious. But above all, I was attracted to Sam's personality. He was always relaxed, composed, and polite to everyone, and he treated me with great care. His hobby was, of course, gaming, and although I had never played before, I started to join him. When we played together, Sam was clearly going easy on me, but I appreciated his kindness. A year after we started dating, Sam proposed to me. I'm not beautiful, and I don't have any parents. Are you sure it's okay? When I said that, Sam looked a bit troubled. Mary, you're still hurt from your previous marriage, aren't you? You're a wonderful woman. Let's become a family and live happily together. Hearing those words made me so happy, I decided to remarry. This time, it'll be okay. Being with Sam made me feel so much happier than when I was with Brian. A year passed and Sam and I got married, and our relationship was still going strong. Since it's our wedding anniversary, let's go to a special French restaurant. Sam told me the name of the restaurant with a smile. It was a high-end restaurant even I was familiar with. Is it really okay to go to such an expensive place? It's a special day, of course it is. Thank you. We usually ate at home or went out for Japanese food, which we both loved, so this was a refreshing change. We dressed up to the nines and headed to the restaurant. As we joyfully enjoyed the dishes served, we were having a blissful wedding anniversary when suddenly I heard a familiar voice. Mary? Hey, is that you, Mary? I looked up to see the face of Brian, whom I never wanted to see again. Next to Brian was the woman he had cheated on me with, her arm linked to his. What do you want? Really? Huh. Brian rudely stared at Sam and me. It seemed Sam had instantly understood the relationship between Brian and me. You're not supposed to have anything to do with me anymore. Please go away. I said that, but Brian didn't budge. Instead, he started to say something outrageous. How can someone like you afford to be in such a high-end restaurant? Sam responded to that. Today is our wedding anniversary. We can dine wherever we want. Wedding anniversary, huh? So the poor couple splurged and came to a place like this, huh? That's touching. Brian was smirking. The woman who had been Brian's affair partner was also covering her mouth and looking at us as if she couldn't hide her amusement. After divorcing elite me, you remarried a jobless man, huh? Brian said to me, completely ignoring Sam. Huh? What's that? Where did you hear that? I ran into one of your colleagues and heard it. They said you're going on dates even on weekday afternoons and that they've never seen your partner wearing a suit. Plus, they said he's a gamer boy. Is this the jobless husband? He's a fittingly dull man for you, huh? Brian continued to mock me, who was too surprised to speak. Well, a divorced nurse like you can only marry a jobless man, huh? You must be supporting this old man, huh? Good for you. Hey, stop it. But, you know, a high-end restaurant like this doesn't suit a poor couple like you. You must have saved up all your pennies to come here, but read the atmosphere, you're lowering the tone. Brian still continued to say such things. Brian's abusive words echoed through the high-end restaurant, and before we knew it, we were the center of attention. He had always belittled me, even when we were married, and now he was even mocking my husband, Sam. I won't forgive him. Never. I reached my breaking point. As I tried to stand up, Sam stood in front of me as if to shield me. Please stop. I won't allow you to ridicule Mary any further. Then, Brian said, trying to hold back his laughter, oh, the jobless husband has appeared. Even jobless, you'll defend your ugly wife, huh? Watch your mouth. You two are the ones who should read the atmosphere. Why don't you just leave? Then Brian, glaring at Sam, said, don't you dare stand up to an elite like me when you're just a jobless old man. I don't care if you're an elite or whatever, please just leave. Sam was unyielding. Then Brian said in an irritated tone, hey you, don't you know who I am? I'm the #1 salesman at S Advertising and I graduated from W University. Yes, and listen, S Advertising makes TV commercials for K-Foods and M Games. I'm on a completely different level from a jobless nobody like you. You have no right to speak to me. Then Sam paused for a moment and said in a low voice, I know who you are very well. Now, who do you think I am? Brian was momentarily confused. Huh? There's no way I'd know who someone like you is. Then, the woman next to Brian, who had been silent until now, let out a small scream. Wait a minute, this guy, isn't he Sam Green? Huh? Who's Sam Green? The woman hurriedly explained to the puzzled Brian. He's the founder of M Games. He graduated from the American Massachusetts Institute of Technology and became a top figure in the gaming industry within 10 years, a genius engineer and entrepreneur. What? Huh? Brian's face turned from red to blue. Indeed, I am Sam Green, the founder of M Games. I'm now the chairman, having stepped back from day-to-day management, Sam said with a straight face. Yes, Sam was the person who founded the super famous game company M Games. I remember being convinced about his free time on weekdays and his constant gaming when I heard that. Wait a minute. M Games is one of our major clients. Brian, now pale, said this while trembling. His face was covered in cold sweat. That's right, we handle all your TV commercials and magazine ads. The advertising budget must be in the billions, Sam said with a smile. At that moment, Brian and the woman next to him bowed their heads. We're so sorry, please forgive us. We had no idea you were the chairman of M Games, Sam said to flustered Brian, trying to apologize. You're apologizing to the wrong person, aren't you? You should be apologizing to Mary. Brian then turned to me and prostrated himself. The woman next to him looked at Brian in astonishment. Mary, no, Miss Mary, I'm sorry. For what happened when we were married and for today, please forgive me. I almost laughed at Brian's pathetic state but managed to hold it in. Mary, what will you do? Sam asked me in a relaxed tone. No, it's impossible to forgive him normally. Please don't ever show up in front of us again, I said firmly. Sam grinned and gave me a small thumbs up. He then bent down and whispered in Brian's ear. Mary is a perfect wife for me. I'll make her happy from now on, so you should worry about your own neck. The pale and trembling Brian and the woman left with their tails between their legs. Let's continue our meal. I smiled at Sam, who spoke in his usual gentle tone, and we enjoyed the rest of our meal. Half a year later, Sam instructed M Games to stop dealing with S Advertising Agency. He reported the horrible attitude Brian had shown, and Brian was fired to take responsibility. His proud, elite career was probably over now. To make matters worse, the woman who was about to remarry Brian seemed to have given up on him and left him. He is now alone, living in poverty in a shabby apartment, but that's none of our business. As for us, we recently found out I was pregnant. Sam was so happy that he jumped up and down and recently returned to game development after a long absence. He wants to make games that can be played with children. As I watched Sam, I hoped that this peace would last forever.